Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and run the Thursday and Friday trade reviews that we took on the Discord because it's already looking like they're going to get a little crazy this week when it comes to futures, right? We're already seeing here, this is the open Sunday, the 26th of July, right? 2026. As you can see here, they're already gapping up across the board. It looks like on NQ, the gaps from like 300 level up to 500 level, as you can see here. So about 200 handle gap, and then YM's a crazy gap, 52 125s up to 52 3. So let's just say 52 150 up to 150 handles on a gap, guys. So a lot of people at that low end looks like they covered their position. But let's go ahead and dive in. This is going to be for the Thursday and for the Friday's trade that we took. Okay, so I'm going to go over Thursday's very quick buy position. We were kind of on and off very quickly, and then I'll go over the position that we took on Friday on stream, and then the one that I took off stream, which was a pretty good trade, which is basically the same trade we took on stream. Okay, so going to dive in here really quickly. I'm going to go ahead and go to the middle screen, and we'll dive straight into Thursday's price. Okay, now Thursday, as you can see here, this is kind of going to show you like the actual price. Thursday was coming to a fall, right? We had the opening price as well up in here in the 29,000s, and price was starting to already deliver, right? As you can see here, 8 to 9 a.m. Price was already starting to deliver these lows. So let's kind of go over here, right? And so what I was anticipating, because we were delivering these lows on Thursday, right? So these lows here, and then this is where Thursday's price was. You can see where that little yellow box is here on the right side. And that blue dot right here as well, or like circle, is just like showing that we had a bullish New York open. And so I was anticipating short covering from a higher time frame context perspective. I did think that we were bearish overall because we had bullish dollar bias. And so, like, what I was wanting to see and what I was talking about on stream is like if you did take a buy position and you took it up to, I would say, 28,000, like 900s or anywhere back in the key level, then most likely you were going to get liquidation right after that buy position. Okay, so what I mean by that is like we would probably take it, it would go up in here, fill the FEG, and then roll back over because I felt like we were bearish overall. Okay. And so the move that we actually took, I'll break down here really quickly on 5 and 1 minute. So this is going to be 15 and 5. So this is 15 here and the 5. Now, what I want to break down is the 1 minute price on that day. So that would have been Thursday, the 23rd. Okay. Okay, let's go over here to the 1 minute. Now, the day before, I believe, if you look at the Wednesday's recap on YouTube or just from the Discord that we had taken, for me personally, we had missed out on a move. So I actually took a scratch before taking this trade, and then took the banger to play for our 5R position. Then price rolled over as we took profit, which also fit into our bias, which was clean. Okay, now coming into the equities open is going to be here, right? So just kind of marking that area, which was would have been right here. Now, what they did, what you can see is that higher time frame liquidity that we were looking for was delivered in that first equities open. So that first 5 minute candle. Now, before equities open, because I didn't want to miss out, and it kind of had like a what I call a FOMO moment, was I was already liking how they delivered the liquidity and they bottom ticked the 700 level, and so I didn't want to miss out. I seen my edge presenting itself, and I was going to act on my edge without reservation or hesitation, right? And that's just what it's like sometimes. So I seen this. We like to use 20 handle risk for about 60 point gains for our 1 to 3s, and 20 handle risk for 100 point gains for our 1 to 5. So looking at this trade, I would say pre-equities open, you just want to let that equities open because they're usually going to body the individuals in the beginning. And so that's what they did, right? In that first candle, as you can see here, they 5 minute wick it, right? So that 5 minute wick is usually going to be a fast 1 minute mitigation setup. And so for me, okay, took a scratch on this first part, and then when price came up, this was 832 going into 833, and then 833 going into 834. Price was showing signs of strength on the 1 minute. Price was also testing into the demand and playing below New York Open inside of a 20 level, which is something I really like. So attempted to rebuy this position after being stopped out on the flush, right? 20 handle risk here, right? And was looking for a break of structure on the 1 minute bar, and I was looking for a break of structure on the 5 minute bar. Nothing too crazy, which ended up being a 20 handle risk for a 5 hour gain, just getting right back above these highs. Price did end up doing what we wanted to see. Okay, so I'm gonna go out of the replay mode here really quick. Price did end up doing what we wanted to see. And delivered through up into that 28,850 zones into that fair value gap, as you can see here on the 5 and 15. And then we were able to trail that up into the 820s, 28,820s before price rolled back over and stopped us out and then rolled back over for the rest of the day. Okay, so took one scratch to get this, but the higher time frame context and understanding, like I said, when you look at a 1 hour and just understand where we were at for the week, right? Being there for the week, this was the market open here, and we were delivering basically that price of the week, and we were starting to attack this looking left wick. So I was anticipating, like I said, some short covering to come under that 28,700 that would have sent us, after we would have like maybe buyers would have stepped in here. I was anticipating it to send us back up into that 28,900 range and kind of secure some of that overnight trader. But we were able to secure the bag nonetheless, right? Pretty good trade. Let me check the Discord on this one, because I believe I have the screenshots from the Discord on here of that. And so that would have been Thursday the 3rd. Okay. And so we even took these, let's see here. Okay, so even took some of these on personal, and then I had already shaven down most of that move on personal that day. But took a scratch to start, and then was able to take the reclap, and then was able to shave everything down once it delivered about 100 points. But was able to call that one out. So I mean, look at the dates, guys. 7:23 by 8:38 a.m. This was one of our fastest trades on the Discord. I believe the trade hit 5 times our risk in about 8 minutes. And, like I said, Chad was on his way to golf. Tay was like, well, that's it. Chad says 919 times 5. Okay, so like really, really good day. When it comes to Thursday, it was really fast. Now, again, like I said, we were in the wrong direction, I guess you could say, for that Thursday trade. Okay. When it comes down to it, but we did have higher time frame context in our higher time frame context. Let me go back here really quick. We did have higher time frame context in alignment with us, and so it did make for a really good R multiple trade. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Friday's setups, because this is looking pretty crazy already for, like I said, the open, and we will break down Friday's setups that we ended up taking. Okay, now Friday was pretty good trading. I personally missed the shorts down just because of like how it looked for me. I was wanting to see strong dollar again. I wanted to see price break below 28,450, so go through the low of day, and then I wanted to see price as well reach for 28,400, which would have been in alignment when you're looking at that 1 hour on our previous week low, right? So that previous week low and key level on higher time frame was 28,400, and so when you look at that on a like a daily time frame, right? 28,400 was us getting below this low here. Okay, and so let's go back here to 15 so you can see the price. Okay, so I'll talk about the sell side move at the end, but I want to talk about the capitulation bounce play that we ended up taking, and then the one that I took off stream. Okay, so let's focus on the one that we took on stream first. Now, going into the equities open, the shorts did really present themselves well, and then as well when you look at like overall strength analysis and then what we were getting from dollar, we were anticipating that move down to come into the session, right? So like all you could see at one point when it comes to New York Open, like this was the actual 8 to 9 a.m. So like before this candle actually printed, all you could see was the low of day, and then the low of week, and then that higher time frame last week's low. So you see that's this Friday from last week, that low from there. Okay, and then obviously we get the capitulation through equities open. Okay, so let me go back here. So that's what we basically are seeing right when price just capitulates over. Now, what I'm anticipating from a higher time frame perspective, since I missed a short, is where are these individuals going to cover that position. I can find so where is that short going to take profit, and I can find a pretty solid buy position. Okay. Now looking at the shorts, I will say this, like on a 5 and a 1 minute coming from Friday, they were very clean. I just personally was not locked into seeing them short that aggressively in the beginning. And I was already looking for, I think, a very similar price action to Thursday, which I just went over before. Okay. And so equities open at one point, right? This is 8:30 to 8:35. And then this is all you could see at one point, right, was coming into equities open. It seemed like they had left a nice M pattern. It seemed like they had left nice liquidity at 28,708s. And so for me, what I wanted to see is possibly again the short covering and then price start to roll back up to the upside and clear through the 28,700. So in that first 3 minutes of the equities open, you can see they started to kind of gully and form that price here, and then they started to show potential that they wanted to buy it up. So for me, in the moment, I was not seeing the sells. I was wanting to see if this 5 minute candle was going to close strong like this, like it does. Okay, so the very first 5 minutes of equities open had closed bullish engulfing, and I was looking for price to possibly continue down back into the range where it like back into the 50%, like 28,560s, 550s, and possibly see price on this left side start to make its way back up through this price here. Okay. And so once we had that 5 minute close, that's essentially what I was looking for. And then when you see the next candle's print, okay, which is going to be the next candle, which would have been 8:35 going to 8:40, you get a 5 minute bearish engulfing. Okay, so from this moment right here, to me, this looks like a good continuation as this candle closes. So all you can see is this at one point was the 5 minute. Excuse me, go back a little bit more, was the 5 minute bearish engulfing. And at this point right here, anything that comes back and starts to, after this close, right, anything that comes back in here and starts to test, like right here on the New York Open, then you're essentially looking for lower lows and lower highs to attack down through the low of day and through the previous day low. Okay. And so now that price is already at a free fall, I'm looking for signs of strength. I'm looking for certain signals for me to want to play the move. Now, once they delivered the liquidity, I'm looking for first 15 minutes of the hour, last 15 minutes of the hour, or draws on liquidity in those time zones. And so they come down and they deliver that low of day right here. So this would have been 8:45 going into 8:50. Now this fits the criteria. Now, as soon as you get that sign of strength candle, you want to be able to identify on the right side of that candle. Okay, you want to be able to identify 1 minute higher highs and higher low price action. So when they came in, right, and I'm looking for this identification here going into 8:45 going into 8:50, right, the 8:50 candle, as soon as it opens, so you got 8:49, it goes up. I'm looking for price to come down, right? So I'm looking for at this point, without seeing this candle print, I'm looking for it to come strike here, okay, and then I'm looking for price to like start to get healthy off that area. And once it starts to break, I want to buy and make sure that I was inside of a 5 minute demand if it was going to go higher. But because, right, after the signal, let me go back here. After the signal, right, price does not go any higher there. So we'll go back again. Sorry. All right, so after the signal price, this was going to be 8:49 going to 50. Then that next candle going, so 50 going into 55, we get another what? 5 minute bearish engulfing candle capitulation. So 28,500 all the way down to 350. Okay, so that's like a what? Almost 200 handles, very close, with no signs of strength on a 5 minute. And so price just continues to make its way down. Now, as we're looking at that higher time frame, we are looking left to get right. And so we're anticipating and seeing, okay, as we're pushing lower, let me go to the 5 minute here. As we're pushing lower, we're waiting. Sorry again. We're waiting for price to finally make that sign of strength at the right time. Okay, so as we're pushing lower here, right, this would have been 905. We're starting to look for prices that's starting to roll over through not only the low day, the previous day low, it's also rolled through last week's low. Okay, so now we're starting to really see, I believe, a lot of short covering on the way. Okay, to see if price can basically hold the 350s and break back above the daily open, or do what it did, which is go back up to 600s and then roll back over. Okay. And so at 9 a.m., this is the Friday position, did not have any shorts on at this time, was waiting for those shorts to cover. we did get the 5-minute sign of strength. So I'll go back through the 5-minute, 1 minute here to kind of break down that order at the right time. Now I'm condensing down the smaller time frames when it's the right time, right? Like I don't want to just look at small time frames at random weird times, okay? And so coming in right here, we got 8:55 going into 9. So first 15 minutes of the hour, last 15 minutes of the hour. Now you don't have to jump the gun. You don't have to feel like you have to catch the what I call the jackknife move. You want to let price present, okay? And so when that 5-minute signal presents itself, 9 and 9:05, you get that bullish sign of strength. It looks like this at one point, okay? This is all you can see. As soon as you see this, you want to be looking at your most recent 5-minute structure. You want to know where your point of interest is, and you want to have an understanding of where daily open is and the midpoint of the day, okay? But to make it easier, where's the most recent area of structure? 28,500, right? That's where the last up candle before down move is. So if I'm anticipating that I'm going to buy a position in this area, the people who are going to lose first are the individuals who shorted this area here or in here, and they have their risk right here in this most recent structure zone. So 5-minute sign of strength, draw your line, right? And then start to think, can I see higher highs and higher lows on a 1 minute? Now, I was just going over this with a couple people inside the Discord this week, that when you take a 1 minute trade, okay, like every time we look for this setup, we have our sign of strength candle, and then our second candle in the 5-minute is usually when they either manipulate the lows, right, or they hold the higher low inside the 1 minute and they push the price up. It's always the second candle after the sign of strength, okay? So this candle here is usually the candle you want to be looking for that alignment to be happening, okay? Now, two different things can happen. People can see this, know the signal, and know that they need to take the trade in the second candle and take the trade more when it gets up here as it's already expanding on the 5, which makes them susceptible to risk and puts them more at position to be, feeling like heat. Or you really focus on price and time and getting your order inside the candle that I show on the streams, which is going to be your 5-minute demand / discount candle. So you want to be waiting for that price to, this is 9 going into 9:05. When that candle is closing here at 9:04 and price engulfs here and then taps what's called an NCE entry, I would like to be entering here, right? But that also puts me out of the zone of the 5-minute. So the goal would be to be getting that candle as soon as it starts to take off on that 1 minute right here, 9:05 to 9:06, and start to attack that area up and start to look to get above the most recent structure high, okay? Now, the other thing you want to be doing when you trade with us is not only are you focused on higher time frame context and location, but you're focused on R multiples. So every time you take a trade, right, if you're risking 20 handles to get, 60 or 20 handles to get 100, right, you have to know once price starts to move in your favor, what are you going to do? So what I mean by that is as price, if you're risking 20 handles and you're looking for and price goes 40 handles in profit, right? So it gives you a 1 to 2 risk reward. At this point here, based on this trade, you could take if you have proper location, you have really good, demand and discount zone entries, right? And timing trades, you're able to condense that risk down and not have to take on the heat because you know that you have a proper location, okay? So what I said is, like, if you're shooting for 1 to 3s, right? Like if you're shooting for a 1 to 3 trade out of this, obviously it delivers in that 5-minute candle. If you're shooting for the 1 to 5, great. I do believe it delivers slightly, okay? But no matter what, when price is in your favor over, 2 times your risk, you can come in and condense that trade down and be looking to be available if it comes back and hits you break even, okay? And so we were looking right there. Now that trade did end up going for us. We ended up delivering the 1 to 3 before it rolled back over. And then for some people, actually, it delivered the 1 to 5 on Friday, depending on how you traded it. And then as we started to exit that trade, we were inside of a 5-minute fair value gap. We also were looking at the 1 minute last up candle and basically the fair value gap here in the 460s or 440s. And we were seeing price not be able to roll higher, and then it started to roll over, okay? Now, again, we did hop off stream, and I believe we took this. Let me see where we took this really quick when it comes to the Discord, okay? So now we go into Friday, which would have been 724, and this was the trade that we took, okay? So exactly, walk it like I talk it, okay? We were looking for 5R. This was the position that we have. The 5-minute was 28,350s. Wanting to make sure I can get my entry as much as I can inside that 5-minute candle. Could have done a little bit better, but that's pretty good. And then wanting to see that price push up, right, and get those players in, and then see it be buying when the market's crashing and selling when it's taking off. So buying that position here on that 1 minute, and framing up this area made it a lot easier for me to be able to play the R multiple, and then, like I said, the trade roll over and not play out. But we were able to win on stream here by like 9:15 a.m. Okay. And so, beautiful trade there. That was the end for the weekend. I did talk about, the trade that I took later in the day, which I'll break down that one here really quickly as well. It's very similar, same concept. It just happened to be the one that aligned with the timing of the day. Okay. So we're about to go over that one. So the one we just took was the one in here. We were able to produce a profit and end the stream. And then later on in the day, so about an hour later, 10 o'clock, right? First 15 minutes of the hour, last 15 minutes of the hour. I'm going to walk you guys through the 5 minute setup and how we were able to really capitalize on this trade and do, as you can see here, this was 5 times your risk right here. So I think it did like 8 times your risk just getting back into the 480s. Okay. And so let's go back to that. Okay. And so we already took this trade, explained this, the system, timing, everything was really good. And then the trade of the day was the one that comes back for the New York players. Okay. So again, you have individuals that, including myself, but I had already taken profit, right, on stream. But at this point right here, individuals are still trying to buy this position. I do believe I was looking, but I was looking at the time window of this saying, it's not the greatest time to take a reclap, right? The reclap's going to happen usually in the last 15 or first 15 minutes of the hour. So essentially what you're seeing here is people coming back into this after we had already taken profit on that 100-point move in just one candle, right? And they're essentially getting stuck here, okay? So their stop losses are building in this area, and the market sees that, so it rejects off the 28,400 key level and rolls over to the algorithmic time, okay? So then price rolls over. This would have been 9:30 going into 9:35. This is that capitulation. So here, at one point, all you could see was this, and this is like a true sign of, obviously price is bearish when you're looking at the line graph, making lower lows and lower highs. And so now what you're waiting for after price gets flushed on a 5 minute candle is timing, first 15 minutes of the hour, last 15, and you're waiting for a 5 minute signal, okay? And so for me, that's a lower low, lower high, right? Lower open, lower close, bearish closes, okay? And then you get one itty bitty sign of strength. Now, look at the time that this strength actually happens, okay? 9:40 going to 9:45. Where is the most recent high on the 5 minute? The most recent high is going to be 28,440s, right? 430s, like right here, 450s, let's just say, okay? And so, if this is a sign of strength and you believe this is the right timing of this trade, you have the higher time frame context and understanding. The individuals from the overnight shorted the 28,700s, and the New York players pretty much shorted 28,550s, and they're up, right? At this point, like 250 handles. You can anticipate based on the higher time frame at this point, there's going to be some short covering, okay? And so for me, I was waiting on this move. Again, 5 minute sign of strength. It's the same sequence over and over. Where's my target? All right, so 5 minute sign of strength. Where's my target? Can I identify a 1 minute mitigation to the right side after this candle closes? So 40 going to 45, right? And then do I have a clean target that presents at least 3 times my risk or 5 times my risk? If I was to enter right around here right now, I definitely have 3 times my risk, and I definitely getting back to that target would be 8 times my risk, okay? And so 5 minute sign of strength. Then can you identify a 1 minute mitigation? So once you've got the 5 minute sign of strength, like we said here, let's go over to the 1 minute mitigation. Okay, because this would have been the candle. And this is what price would have been doing. Okay. And so when you're looking at, you've got the 5 minute sign of strength, right? And then you get, this would have been 43 going into 44, and then 45. And then you're going, this candle is going to print 45 going into 950. Okay. And so what I always say, sign of strength candle 5 minute, you're usually entering in the second 5 minute candle inside the 1 minute mitigation / signal. Okay. So at one point, all you could see was this on a 1 minute. Okay. Price had done this, and then you got one candle to print kind of strong out of the area, and then you get the extension candle in this candle here, okay? Now our focus is, let's move this over here. Okay, our focus is now this 5 minute demand / discount, which is going to be here, okay? Make sure it's yellow so we know which one we're looking at. Okay, so it's going to be that 5 minute demand slash discount. We've got our signal candle, and now we want to be playing our entry in the second candle of strength in the 5 and 1 minute. Okay, and so now that we have that sign of strength, this is how it would look if you took the trade in different spots. If you take the trade, okay, right on this 49 going into 50, if you take it right when it's closing, you see how on the left side you're actually outside of the 5 minute demand. Okay, what you want to be doing is doing your best, okay, and taking that trade when it's inside that zone, okay, when it's inside that 5 minute looking left zone, and you're able to take the 20 handle risk, okay. So it looks like this. You'd be framing up. You don't want you want to frame up the 5 minute like this, to where your entry goes right in alignment with the open of the candle, okay. And so let's say you took this trade here, right, and you were looking for just the target of getting above here, which I believe was, like I said, a 1 to 8. Okay, getting a 1 to 8, it definitely would have delivered a 1 to 5, right? So now, when do I like to go past the 1 to 5? One, when price is going parabolic, and two, when it's there's a clean target, which this was a clean target to get back to the 28,450s at this point. Okay, and so clean target, I thought, to get you, a nice move for the day. And guys, anytime you can do about, if you're risking, 20 points, and you can do anything close to like 10 R's, so 20 points for like a 1 to 10 is going to be 200 points. That's a beautiful trade. But if one 5 minute structure, right? So this is going to be this one 15-minute bar going into 10 a.m., right? Goes from 300s up to here, 150 handles. That's quite a bit for the day. Okay. But the entry most likely is going to be there. If it's a little bit late, right? If it's a little bit late, which is fine in this type of situation as long as you're on the right side of the V. I would say it's most likely, and what ICT teaches is to let this move kind of come up and then to play this FEG on 1 minute. So like a lot of times people like to let this candle come up and close. They see this 52 going into 53, they see 53 going to 54, and then they play the 54 going to 55 like this. They'll play this candle just like this, place their risk like this, and play it up. But again, you see why I say focus on getting your order in the 5 minute demand, because most people don't get this entry either. They usually get this one here as it's already breaking up. And then as you can see, as price, does its functionality and delivers the liquidity, what does it do? It comes right back to that trader, right, that bought that expansion and didn't buy discount on demand, doesn't have the understanding of that yet. Okay. And so it really comes down to, when you're taking 15-5 positions, even if you took this on the 1 minute, as long as you focused on getting yourself inside of the 1 minute demand, okay, like this area right here, you're taking on, a 20 handle risk for a 60-point gain, right? Price goes in your favor, delivers 6 times your risk, you shave your profits, and here you go break even on the remainder of the trade, and you're still able to hold this most likely back up to, point of interest, a supply candle 560 to 580s, or maybe even the area we talked about on stream, which was the New York shorts liquidity that got delivered at 11:10 going into 11:15 a.m. Okay, so the trade that I said like I took here to close out the day was this trade. Okay, and then I was able to scale that risk up after it delivered through the key level 400s and had went through that first 15 5-minute structure break, where I was able to scale this risk up and left a runner on to then go attack for what I wanted, which was high on day potential. But we ended up wanting just the 28,630s, which delivered later on in the day to take out those New York shorts. Okay, so I just broke down Thursday. I broke down. I also broke down the Friday's position that we took on stream. Then I also broke down the position that I thought was really good based on our criteria and the way that we like to see things. Now, there was one other one close to 10:10 going to 10:15 that I did think was like a good 15 5-minute position, more in the lines of like here. Okay, so it's like a 1 to 3, 1 to 5 situation that definitely brewed up and would have got you back up to New York Open for at least 8 times your risk or 5 times your risk getting through the first structure break as well. So this was a really good area to go study. If we were to look at the 10:10 going into 10:15, I do think that as this started to rally back up, there was a position that you could have taken even here that would have been pretty solid and pretty good, but also something a little bit lower in those 375s, 380 zones to then just get past the first 5 minute, 1 minute high, which would have been here at the 478s. Okay, so that would have been good too. So we'll be on same time this week for the New York sessions. I'm going to drop the stream schedule. But every day, the goal is to definitely do these daily recaps, and then soon as well, do here on YouTube the weekly recap. So just basically an overall looking at the 1 hour from a perspective like this was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and kind of how the week was, and then what we anticipate coming into this week, which is like already an example of like seeing this 200, almost 150 plus point gap up to start the week is going to be very interesting. Okay. And so, and then monthly reviews, because right, we have a monthly coming to a close, and we've been, streaming now with the group for a while. So, I hope this helps out. Right, going over that Thursday position, how we managed it. It was a quick 5-hour position. The price rolls over into the lower extremities of the range, and then Friday's position being the first attempt at 9 a.m. 5-hour delivered very quickly. Price rolls over again. Then 9:40 a.m. last 15 minutes of the hour, first 15 minutes of the hour are kill zones. Right, price delivers a beautiful position to then rocket back up to the New York shorts. Okay, so again, appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you guys on the next one.